Hello there, greetings everybody, and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back here on Monday night, well it's actually Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon, to do another look back at a classic rock album. The album that we've chosen to do, or the album I've chosen to do this week, is called Wobbler's Hinterland. You may have seen this album on other channels. Maybe you've seen me talk about this album before, but now we're going to do it. Now, the reason it hasn't been done before for a classic rock album has nothing to do with the album. It has to do with me. I thought that it said 2015, so I was going to do it as a recent history album, which I haven't done any of those in over a year. So I thought, okay, well, we'll do it under that title. But then once I got down to putting all the information on paper and listening to the album for the review, I discovered it was actually released in 2005, so therefore it does qualify as a classic rock album, which is good because it's fantastic. So we'll just go through the normal information that I usually like to do at the beginning. First thing is, let me show you the album. As you can see, it has some very good artwork on it. The artwork was done by Michael Bennett. Yep. So if you look, you open the album up, you'll see that it continues onto the back side of them, and actually it might be easier for me to just do this, show you the whole album. So this is a really good work of art here. It's also I had fairly high expectations of this album. I bought it off Laser's Edge, and it is definitely exceeded that. So I've done this album on a couple of other episodes. I think I did one when I did those 5 episodes of 5 clear sounding albums. This definitely was one of the ones I did in that. I'm pretty sure of it. So we'll get down to the information, the basic information about the album first. So this was released on September 6th, 2005. Length was about 56 minutes, almost 57 minutes long. Pretty long album. By my standards, it's way past the attention span that I seem to have. So it's taken a long time for me to really absorb this album properly. So, and it was produced by Wobbler, Jacob Holm Lupo, and Oyster Versaire. The members of the band, now I did write them differently. So you have, let me get my notes up here on top so I can see them. I'll need my glasses for that too. So it's a 5-member band. They're all Norwegian. This band is a Norwegian band. It's a Norwegian progressive rock band. So we have Lars Fredrik Froli on keyboards, Hammond organ, mellotron, grand piano, glockenspiel, cabinet, harpsichord, stylophone, and other synthesizers and various types of keyboard brands. Martin Nordrum Neppen, he was the drummer and the percussionist. Kristen Carl Hutgren, bass and saxophone. Morten Andreas Eriksson, he was a electric and acoustic guitar player. And then Tony Johansson was the lead vocalist. Okay, couple things about the album that you should know. When they decided to do this album, they chose all the instruments that they used on the album they didn't use any instrument that was made after 1975. So all the instruments they used to play on this were made during that classic period of progressive rock. So it has a very 1970-ish sound to it, especially early 70s. It has that sound, but it's much clearer. So you're getting to hear these instruments that came out way back then. You get to hear them with much more clarity, more of a modern feel, even though the album really does feel like you're back in the 70s. I really think this is a grand album. So it has 4 tracks on it. The first one is almost negligible. It's about 45 seconds long. It's a little keyboard kind of atmospheric tune that starts the album off. Very short, doesn't do very much. This kind of sounds a little bit like something you might hear maybe in an elevator or something. That's to me what it sounds like. Then you have the second tune, Hinterland, which is 27 minutes 30 seconds, 32 seconds long. This is a long track by any progressive rock standard. Really good track. So much stuff going on here. I can't even begin to diagnose it. It's just so much. There's so much instrumentation, especially in the keyboard realm, where he plays just about every keyboard I mentioned to you earlier. He has a couple of parts where you can clearly hear the church organ type thing going on, but for the most part there's even some harpsichord on this too. Yeah, really pretty dominated song by a lot of keyboard elements. I do really like the bass on this album too. It's very forward, probably the most forward of the instruments here. Pretty strong. I think the guy really has a grip and a good handle on the use of the bass and how it fits into the song. Really cool. The vocalist is maybe a little bit weak. He kind of he doesn't sound anything like the guy from Camel. His name's eluding me right now, but definitely is within that sound range. Like almost not intruding on the song. It's almost non-existent at points. It does give some growth to the storyline, but overall I'd say the weakest part of the album is probably the vocals. This song too has a lot of really intricate time signatures and plays. Sorry. Yeah, some really interesting time signatures and play, and it changes up quite a bit throughout this song. Probably the best song on the album, in my estimation, Hinterland. The third song on the album, Roboto Industry, it's about 12 minutes long. This one, not as memorable as the other songs on the album. I don't remember as much about it listening to it. Does have some good guitar, does have more dominant bass playing on here as well. And of course he plays a multitude of keyboards, and I think this is the one with the violin, but I'm not 100% sure. But a decent song. The last song on the album, Claire Obscure, is probably many people's favorite on the album, and is probably the most known, recognizable tune if you have been listening to this kind of music at all. It's really good. It ends off with this really nice piano part at the end of the album, which I think is really fantastic. Definitely a song that captures your imagination. Lots of little intricate parts in it as well. The whole album's like that. There's lots of little intricate parts. So you got your basic instrumentation going on, your drums, your forward bass, your keyboard parts. Guitar is not really all that dominant. At least I don't find it as dominant. But then you have little instrumental parts put in throughout the album, and many of them are mentioned here. Things like the saxophone, you'll hear that at points during the album. There's various types of keyboards other than the ones I've said, the brand named ones. So he's got several different types of Hammond organs is what I'm trying to get at. Glockenspiel, you can hear that on certain aspects of certain songs as well. Harpsichord is definitely a dominant, a more noticeable instrument. Of course, I don't remember hearing the mellotron anywhere, but I know he did play it on a couple of tracks. I don't even think I have it listed. Oh, I do have it listed. So, and there is a grand piano and a church organ sound with it on a couple of tracks as well. So this is a well-constructed album, very melodically good, really progressive in its nature. Definitely has that early 70s sound to it, and the instrumentation is very good as well. It's not just sounding like that stuff from the past. I'm a little bit, it's hard to pinpoint it to a certain group sound. Like, I think it sounds a lot like a lot of different bands, but doesn't at the same time really sound like anybody. I don't know if that makes any sense. They use a lot of elements, I guess, from bands like Genesis and Yes, and some of those bands, King Crimson, that kind of stuff. But they don't really sound like there's no instance on the album where I say, oh, that definitely is a King Crimson sound, or that's definitely a Yes sound, or that's definitely a Genesis sound. I just think that they've kind of incorporated all those sounds into their own sound, which is the reason why I like them so much. So they're both sounding like that style that you got back in the early 70s, but at the same time not sounding like anybody from the 70s, which is great. That's what you really want. I wanted that kind of return to my favorite era of music for progressive rock with something completely new. So I think Wobbler offers that, and I think there's a few other Scandinavian bands that I think really promote this, but these are my favorite. These guys are my favorite of those bands at the moment. So I'm hoping that you'll get a chance, if you haven't, to listen to this album. This band actually has 5 albums. I'm only now starting to get in the second album that I have by them. This one has been on my charts the longest of any particular album currently on my charts. On my playlist. And for a while, I think it was probably my favorite album at some point. It's starting to fade a little bit now. I tend to pull my albums out of my playlist when they start to fade a bit, because I don't want them to burn out at the same time. I don't mind if they fade. That really just means you've become very comfortable with them. I just don't want to burn them out by overplaying them, because I want to go back to them, be able to go back to them. So there you have it. This is Wobbler's Hinterland, released September the 6th, 2005, so that's like 18 years ago. They've got, like I said, 5 different albums, and I hope to explore all 5 of them myself. I'm hoping that I've introduced some of you to this band, and for those of you who have listened to them, you'll know how good they really are. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any comments about this album, or about this band, or about anything that I've said, or about the Norwegian progressive rock movement, all that kind of stuff, please put some in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And we will be back next Monday with another look back at another classic rock album. So have yourself a good evening. Take care and goodbye.